Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm doing a video on Kang. We're going to do the intro, and then we're going to do the Council of Cross-Time Kangs, because it kind of relates to the Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania. So we can have some other Kang videos under our belt. And I already did Ramatut. He was featured in one of the end scenes in the Quantumania movie, and that the idea that it was because Ramatut, Immortus, and another character that I don't remember what that I didn't recognize who that character was. So, but the storyline is basically a has bits from a bunch of different things. It's it's I think you can go to the battling between the two. All these characters come from I think of Giant Size Avengers, but since it mainly dealt with Kangs and Kang, I guess we can kind of stay there. So let's introduce Kang, right? So we're gonna do Avengers 8 just to quickly go through that. You guys will see that. You'll see that, and so this is off. Of course, it's off. Bang! Look at that. So this is the first appearance of Kang, right? And in this storyline, so this is possibly going to be a series of videos again, like all of them. And my plan is to not wait too much longer in between to see a response. I'm just going to do these because there's this storyline, the Council of Cross-Time Kangs. If I can, I'm going to get to the Kang and Nebula storyline and what is that? In the Avengers after Roger Stern, and then that would lead to what if John Byrne stayed on the West Coast Avengers, right? So we're gonna have a double duty type of thing, right? So let's keep going. So through this, we see Kang, and I saw this, and I'd always wanted to see a Kang story, but I hadn't seen any of them. And then by the time I was seeing him, was many a bunch of them. So he was also killed in Secret Wars. So I was kind of, and there was it so I was like kind of, I thought the costume was cool. I was hoping to see the character in a comic book. He seemed like he was going to be in the JLA Avengers, which George Perez did, and looked amazing, but that didn't, of course, happen. So let's go through this, right? So in this, the Avengers have been called to the Pentagon. They are heavily applauded, of course, and they're going to watch this, and they see this ship come that can disable all of these great things, right? And the Avengers in this side is struggling to figure out who they're taking the democratic process a little too seriously, where they basically each story decide who's going to be the leader. So they decide Cap, it's his turn, right? So they go there and they get to see this futuristic ship that's able to mobilize tanks and stuff like that, and changing this wooded area into glass. Tanks come, he's able to mobilize all the tanks, and Kang introduces himself, and he basically decides he's going to become ruler of this land. And when he comes and he meets the Avengers, he is impressed with himself, not with the Avengers, right? And he has all these tech to deal with them, right? So as we go forward, Yubi Waza. Anyway, it shows quickly he's able to take out most of the Avengers, and send Thor's hammer into subspace, right? And there's not much they can do with them. And then, of course, King doesn't need to explain, but he's going to explain to the people what happened, right? And he basically said he was already a time traveler, call himself Pharaoh Ramatut, right? So it's telling you the issues. 19 is where Ramatut was in. And then FF Annual 2, which I showed you guys, right? And then he propelled himself trying to get back to the year 3000 and went to the year 4000. So he got himself armed and he decided to take over that area, right? And now he's going to go, he went back in time again, decided to take over the 1965. It'd be a rotating thing for comic time, but at this point, he decided to do it, but the Avengers aren't having it. But you see, he's not that easy to capture. And Giant Man tries to grab him, and he gets knocked back. Iron Man gets knocked back in that fray. Thor comes back again, can't get through his force field. The Wasp tries to get through the circuitry, and she gets captured. Then Captain America comes in with the save. They get Wasp out of there. And the Avengers going for the kill, but he immediately, on his belt, is able to send all the Avengers into the paralysis ray. Now remember this paralysis ray because you're going to see it later, right? So now Kang is this. Now this, when I saw this, I was just like, I saw this in the 90s. I was totally wild. I was like, this is everything that I wanted it to be. Even though Stan makes fun of the headdress, I thought this was really cool. So Wasp is out. She has a plan, and they decided, and this is a key point to doing cool stories, is try to involve regular people, right? So King has taken over everything. Another brief thing. This is pre Dark Knight and what's that thing? Dark Knight and American Flag doing the reports to make this bigger. I showed you in Wally Wood, showing you how like this passage of time, like a movie montage, something that can give you a thing of this reporting going around the world that this is all um, doing. It's spread widespread without showing you it, right? So they want to come help. The Team Brigade goes in and they're going in to help King. So they're going in there. They're taking too long. Next thing you know, they're clumsy, and obviously it's all part of a plan and stuff. And now they're off to the races. They're going to try to disable, and they find the Avengers and they disable the paralysis ray, right? And Thor gets out. They get Iron Man out, and both Thor, Don Blake was hurt. Now here's a key bit. If you look over here, Thor still retains some sort of some of his doctor ability. So people thinking of him as just a musclehead. He has some of the ability to, I always thought he should turn surgeon. But anyway, and Iron Man has been out without power, so he's going down, but he's going to fight through it. And at the same time, Wasp realized they're not powerful enough to beat Kang, so she's going to use his own weapons against him. So she starts putting things together, starts figuring out stuff. And here's the key thing: she puts together this. Well, no, actually, she's not in his ship. She's actually back in Hank Pym's lab. So she's actually putting together something that would take out Kang, right? So this is a key moment for the Wasp. This is like Sue's moment of saving the Fantastic Four when you're about to die at the hands of Doctor Doom, right? So she puts together something that he was making, and she utilizes ants, the flying ants, and herself to take it with him. And now Kang is, the Avengers are weakened, but he's going to use this these canister against them, and then they attack, and slowly they're taking the Avengers down again. And Wasp throws this gun at them. Thor is holding them off, and at the same time, Giant Man uses it, and it sort of puts some sort of acid to his all of his armor, and it shuts down a lot of his defenses. But then he has one thing else, a fatal missile. But Iron Man is able to knock it away with repulsor rays, and that explodes, and he's able to disable all of them. And then at the same time, he decides to use radiation. And this is his last attempt, but Thor has shown he can control radiation with his hammer, and they send Kang off packing, right? So Kang comes back a few times, but this was a cool story to kind of give you a precursor to Kang. Say, like, to me, I was just kind of wowed by him. And he comes back, and we meet Ravonna, who's his girlfriend, who he tries to court while fighting the Avengers, and she basically she kind of falls for him, and she sacrifices herself to save him, and this becomes this ongoing romance to find Ramona in the time stream, right? So for me, I was chomping at the bit, and surprisingly, I didn't buy these books when they came out. I think I might have. Did I buy any of them? No, this might be the period where I stopped buying comic books, right? This might be this period where I bailed, right? So here we have, this is the original Kang Dynasty before Kurt Busiek, right? But any good name gets reused in Marvel, right? So here we have Kang, and then we have some wacky characters here. We have Storm, we got the Hulk, we have Colossus. So this is going to start to show you some divergence in time. We have Storm coming to the Avengers, right? She's an Avenger, right? We see Colossus with the president, right? And then we see Iron Man about to drop something off, and they're about to open it. But at the same time, Tony Stark comes out of nowhere, and he said, "No, he said, let's get this bum out of here." And he's like, "No, I'm Tony Stark," and we get this explosion, right? And then we find out it's Kang the Conqueror. He killed the Avengers, and then at the same time, he's whisked away by these three mysterious figures that are over here, and they say, "Nope, what you did was cause a nuclear, like a extinction level event. That you started a nuclear war, and then they attacked you, right? So they killed, the whole planet was destroyed, so there's nothing there to deal with, right? But at the same time, he made a divergence in time, right? So this deals with what was in Ant-Man when you saw all of the possibilities. So Roger Stern was dealing with it where he was trying to, point out this thing in Marvel where they introduce as you go back in time, you start creating these divergence in time, right? And it starts to split. So points out that in this alternate timeline, the Avengers won. They stopped him before he could kill the president, right? And he doesn't believe that, so they kill him, right? And this Council of Kings, and it's only 3 of them here, and they're kind of like, these kings are getting dumber as we go along, right? So this kind of goes to when you see Kang, he's more of a megalomaniac, saying you can kill the king, but it might not be the real one. So maybe the one in what's that thing? In Secret Wars wasn't the real one, right? So one of the other Kangs, he starts to find this Kang with the cape. He finds his locale, right? And this Kang is impressed with him, right? And he starts to show him what's in there with all this tech, all this stuff, and he's really impressed by all this cool stuff that's over here, right? And in here, we see Ravonna. This is the person I was telling you about, which is his girlfriend, right? Well, she's in stasis, but then she's alive. And he comes over, and he eliminated. He said, "Now there's only one left to eliminate," right? So this is an interesting thing. So during this period, Submariner joins, and the public is totally against Submariner joining, right? But they're dealing with it. This name Jarvis has lost some pounds, and this is a great panel of Janet Van Dyne. I'm not sure. I used to buy these Avengers. Well, no, maybe when I came back, I started buying them again. Okay, I think I stopped, and then I started buying them again during the Under Siege period. Yeah, so that's when I was fully back, right? So we see the Avengers working on this tunnel. At the same time, they're all working together, and this team is Wasp, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Black Knight, Submariner, Hercules, and Captain America. Now, the only problem with this is that Submariner and Hercules don't have more scenes together, but they're just a riot together, right? So as they're in this tunnel, there's something that's going on, and then everything gets weird, and the Hulk appears. And Hulk dropped, but then next thing you know, he changes into a giant man, right? And he realizes it's really Hank, right? So this is a great mystery right here, right? So at the same time, this is the most bugged out panel sequence in the whole thing. And if you've read, you know that Roger Stern wrote Captain America, right? So he kind of gave Cap this, started to see parts of Cap's personality, right? And Monica's kind of struggling with Namor, even though he seems to be normal and he's a little more nice, but she's not kind of with it, right? Captain America, and she wants, she calls him Captain. She says, "We'll call him Steve." And he said, "I'll call you Steve. You call me Monica." And he said, "Monica?" I said, "Monica Rambeau, that's my name. Monica, you don't have to tell me that. I've been waiting to confide, confide in an Avenger I can trust. Who better than you? Oh, Avengers, we'll dine well tonight." And Captain's like, "Not more lobster." He said, "Pay no attention to Mr. Meat and Potatoes Namor. As far as I'm concerned, you can stock the Avengers larder from now to Doomsday." That word, right? All right. And then Cap says that you still don't trust, you completely trust them, do you, Miss Rambeau? How long will it be until you tell him to call him Monica? It was just like, wow, that panel is just like telling. I'm not sure if Cap was upset or not, but here we go, going back to this scene where we had some mystery thing, and they realize this seems to be like the Space Phantom, right? And then we realize they're in limbo, and here's Kang, right? And he wants to keep them staying there. He has some plans for them, also get stuck in limbo for eternity. And they attack him, of course. And then what happens? They realize Kang's a master of robotics, and they're upset. And he's happy. He got the Avengers right where he wants them. And his plan is to take out all the other Kangs, and he shall be the conqueror of all times, right? You see that next is the Kang Dynasty. So let's get to the next issue. See, the Growing Man, he was notoriously absent. He would have been a great character to fight Giant Man, right? The Growing Man, well, actually, we're going to find this doesn't work out as well in this issue. The Growing Man should be really cool in this, but he's not, right? So the Avengers are still stuck. We got Cap, other Cap, and Namor, and Submariner is working on this stuff. He says Kang and Krang. This is the first time we hear sounding different. Now, Captain America's taller in the Buscema's thing. I don't really see that anymore, but and so these other three Avengers are still caught. They don't know where they're at, right? They realize it's probably Kang, and he changes back to the Space Phantom. They want to get some information. I don't think the Space Phantom has been back for too long, which actually Kang is just not ready for them to get any information out of them, right? Avengers want the mano a mano. He's just laughing at them, right? Gets them all riled up. And now we've got all these robot Kangs. We've got all these plans to take out it and get rid of his last rival, right? And at the same time, this is Roger Stern trying to tie in Rom to Limbo. So it's the same spot where Kang and the Mortis deal with Limbo. The Dire-Rats are already there, so the Avengers fight off the Dire-Rats while they're stuck in there, right? And the hint here is to keep stressing how strong Hercules is. Right? That he's even stronger than like anyone they've had in the team before, right? Which doesn't really pay off because he's gonna get, gonna go through what's in it. So they're trying to work with the time platform that the leader had, but then Namor is still struggling to try to figure this out. And both of them are seeing that there's more to him, right? And he's easily calmed down by Cap. Right? So the other Avengers are dealing with the Dire-Rats, and so they realized that Dire-Rats actually wanted to get out of the control of Kang, so they were going to hopefully get themselves killed. And now, of course, the Avengers won't kill them, of course, but tells them the directions to the place where they need to go. And then they run into what they think is another robot. And they bring in the growing man. And every time you hit him, he gets bigger, right? And they figure the time sled, so they go, the other Avengers, time platform, so the other Avengers make it there, right? And they get right into the meat of the action. So Hercules is fighting the growing man, and then he keeps growing, but then punches him, and then it's over. And this is one of the bad parts about the Stern Avengers, right? Because the growing man works with the kinetic energy, just makes him grow. And then this is like he hit the limit, and Hercules somehow messed up some circuitry, right? And he's finally, the one king in the council has decided he's going to destroy the Avengers and his last divergence of himself, right? The once and future king. So we'll get to the last storyline. We'll get to see this. This shot is so small in this issue. This should be in the whole thing, but it's in there, right? So Kang has got he's with Ravonna. They got what he's calling the last divergent of him, and he's gonna kill the Avengers and this Kang, right? So basically, we're gonna get the history of Kang, right? That his ancestors, and this is the Warlord storyline that I showed you guys in one of my earlier videos, which led to this character becoming Ramatut and then going into the past and fighting the Fantastic Four, then running into Doom, right? So Stern really liked to do the even more so than Byrne using the flashbacks, right? And while Submariner is saying they realize Submariner has these fits of madness, realize Doom has used that against them, right? And Hercules is fighting against the what's the name, the paralysis beam, which he shouldn't be able to, but they're trying to stress that he's a god so he can do more. So they hint that being in there. So he decided we got to the 4,000. He decided he'd sling Doom. He would create his own suit, go in and take over, right? And he takes over that and decides he wants to go to a more vital area because there's nothing, everything's destroyed. And we're here, and this is the best part. And he said, we send Cat running, with his tail running between his legs. And Kang says, luck. You heard me. It was sheer luck that you thwarted me that day. Thwarted us, brother. After all, your life did not diverse from mine until after that first encounter with the Avengers. Would you like to know when it did? He said, well, you mean when your life diverged from mine, upstart. So we have this Kang with the cape feeling he's the key one, and this Kang still feels like he's the key one. Somehow Hercules is overloading the paralysis beam, right? So this is trying to stress that Hercules is like the most, like this thing is going too overboard with Hercules because he takes out Mortis. He's like he's astronomically, seemingly more powerful than Thor, and at the same time, he gets stomped. Well, he was drunk, so he got stomped on by the Masters of Evil, right? So we go to another storyline where the Avengers join forces. This is the next storyline after what's the name? Where Ravonna, he's trying to win Ravonna's love and she gets killed trying to save him and loses her, but he puts her in stasis while she was dying, right? And we got another storyline with Thor. I don't remember that one. Thor runs into Mortis and he starts to see all this stuff and he sees Ravonna in this Mortis's time realm and he connects back with her, right? And at the same time, he sees a divergence of a thing where she survives, but Kang dies, and she starts to realize, hey, these Kangs are idiots. I got to take them out. So Hercules is breaking through the paralysis. Now they all can move, and they break out of it. But Kang is ready. The leader of the Council of Cross Time Kangs, right? So the Avengers are free to start the frolic and do this. Now, Ravonna's like, hey, don't go back into this revenge thing. Right? Let's just forget. Why don't you forget about it? He's like, no, I gotta take this guy out, right? So they're going in all these new robots. It's not the Mac robots like we've seen in the past. And they're going after the key Kang with the cape, right? So he wants the gun, they give the gun to him. It's going after the other Kang. Kang's fighting the Avengers. He's about to sneak up on him, and what happens? Something in his armor, right? And he's exploding and he falls down, right? He's finally seemingly killed the last king. He's the last one, but then who shows up is Immortus. Immortus shows up, and he's like, he's the other divergence. This is from another king from another timeline, right? right? And he didn't know at this point, he realizes that he's a part of this person, right? So she is standing with he said this is all the memories. He takes all the memories and that drives King with the Cape crazy, right? And Mortis has saved the day, but the Avengers don't like how he saved it, so he sends them back where he said now the Avengers will never trust you. So this is setting up a big thing for something later. But this is where I'm going to stop. We got to see the original Kang Dynasty of one King trying to get rid of all of the virgins when there's still Ramatut out there, there's still Mortis out there. So his plans were mute, but he did get rid of some of the other Kangs, right? So there we go. We have that done. Spinnerack is out.